The Roots of Power, Early Life and Education. In the heart of Nara Prefecture, where history and tradition blend with the quiet rhythm of rural Japan, a baby girl was born on March 7, 1961. Her name, Sanae Takaichi. Few could have imagined that this little girl, from a modest middle-class family, would one day grow up to become Japan's first female prime minister, breaking one of the toughest political barriers in the country's modern history. Sanae's childhood was shaped by discipline, hard work, and strong family values. Her father worked for an automotive parts manufacturer tied to Toyota, one of Japan's biggest companies. He was known for his diligence and work ethic, traits that deeply influenced young Sanae. Her mother, on the other hand, served in the Nara Prefectural Police, a rare and respected position for a woman at that time. From her mother, Sanae inherited a sense of duty and courage, a belief that rules, order, and service to society matter above all else. Growing up, Sanae was a curious and determined child. She attended Nara Prefectural Unebi High School, where she quickly stood out for her sharp mind and leadership qualities. Teachers described her as someone who never hesitated to question, to argue, and to stand by her principles, traits that would later define her political career. But even as a young girl, she experienced the invisible walls that Japanese women often faced. When she expressed her desire to study in Tokyo at top universities like Keio or Waseda, her parents refused. "It's not proper for a young woman to live alone in the city," they said. For many, that might have been the end of a dream, but not for Sanae. She stayed close to home, enrolling at Kobe University in the Faculty of Business Administration. Her choice wasn't just obedience, it was strategy. She decided to prove that even without Tokyo's prestige, she could rise on her own merits. At Kobe University, Takaichi quickly became known as a unique and outspoken student. While other girls focused on traditional careers, Sanae immersed herself in debates, economics, and policy discussions. She wasn't afraid to challenge professors or propose bold ideas in class. But what truly set her apart were her unusual hobbies. Outside the lecture halls, Sanae lived a life few could imagine for a future prime minister. She was a motorcycle enthusiast, often seen wearing a leather jacket and speeding down the highways on her bike. She was also a heavy metal drummer, performing with the local band. The energy, rhythm, and rebellion of heavy metal spoke to her spirit, the sound of freedom and defiance in a world that often told her what women should or shouldn't do. Her university friends often joked that if Sanae ever becomes a politician, she'll be the loudest one in the room. They were right. In 1984, she graduated from Kobe University, but instead of immediately entering the corporate world, she began to dream of something bigger: politics. Yet at that time, Japanese politics was a fortress built by men. Women rarely entered, and those who did were often sidelined. Still, Sanae was not the type to accept limits. Her next major turning point came when she joined the Matsushita Institute of Government and Management, a training ground for future leaders founded by Panasonic's visionary founder, Konosuke Matsushita. The institute's goal was to produce politicians who combined business knowledge with moral integrity. There, Sanae learned the deeper philosophy of governance, how leadership is not just about power, but about responsibility. She studied economics, public policy, and communication, sharpening her political instincts. But her education didn't stop in Japan. With ambition burning in her heart, Takaichi decided to travel abroad, to the United States, where she could experience democracy firsthand. Between 1987 and 1989, she worked as a congressional fellow in the office of U.S. Congresswoman Pat Schroeder, one of America's leading female politicians at the time. That experience changed her life. In Washington, she witnessed a different kind of politics, where women raised their voices without hesitation, where they argued, debated, and led with confidence. Pat Schroeder became a role model for her. Takaichi once said that working in Schroeder's office taught her how a woman could stand at the center of power, not just behind it. She learned how legislative systems worked, how policies were formed, and how leaders communicated directly with the public. More importantly, she learned that gender should never define capability. That realization became one of the emotional foundations of her future political journey. Returning to Japan after her fellowship, Takaichi found a nation still deeply rooted in traditional values. Women were expected to marry, raise families, and remain in the background. Few imagined a woman taking a front seat in national politics. But Sanae returned with a mission to prove that leadership should depend on ability, not gender. Her early experiences gave her both discipline and defiance, the balance of respect for order from her parents and the rebellious independence of her younger years. These two sides would often collide throughout her career. The strict conservative politician and the fearless dreamer who once played drums in a rock band. By the late 1980s, Sanae Takaichi had quietly begun laying the foundation for her political journey. She was no longer just a young woman from Nara. She was a trained political thinker with global exposure, academic excellence, and the determination to challenge Japan's political traditions. The stage was set. The young biker girl from Nara was about to take her first step into Japanese parliament and into history itself. The political rise, from parliament to power. When Sanae Takaichi returned to Japan from the United States, she carried with her a fire that few could see but everyone could eventually feel. She had tasted what it meant for women to hold power, to speak, to lead, and to shape the destiny of a nation. Back in Japan, she found a system that was slow, traditional, and dominated by men in black suits. But that didn't intimidate her. It motivated her. In the early 1990s, Japan was going through change. The bubble economy had burst. The nation was entering a long economic slowdown, and the people were beginning to lose faith in the political establishment. The timing was perfect for new voices to emerge. And that was when Sanae Takaichi decided to take her first step into the battlefield of Japanese politics. In 1993, at the age of just 32, she ran for election to the House of Representatives. She had no strong political family name, no dynastic background, just determination and discipline. Her campaign was small but fierce. She went door to door, shaking hands, listening to ordinary people's struggles. Her speeches were direct, her tone fearless. She spoke about revitalizing Japan's economy, empowering women, and restoring trust in government. Many political veterans laughed at her. They said she's too young and too bold. But in that same election, Japan's voters were looking for something new, and they found it in her. Sanae Takaichi won her seat, becoming one of the few female members of Japan's lower house. It was the start of a journey that would test her endurance, her loyalty, and her vision for Japan. At first, she entered politics as an independent candidate, but she soon realized that to truly influence Japan's policies, she needed the backing of a major party. In 1996, she joined the Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, Japan's most powerful and historically dominant political force. This move was strategic, but it was also risky. The LDP was filled with traditional conservatives, and for a woman with bold ideas to survive there, she needed not just intelligence, but resilience. Inside the LDP, Sanae found both mentors and rivals. One figure would change her political life forever: Shinzo Abe, a rising conservative star who shared many of her ideals. Both believed in strengthening Japan's defense, restoring national pride, and challenging the pacifist restrictions of the post-war constitution. Their friendship and political alliance would last for decades, and Abe's mentorship would become a turning point in her journey. Throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s, Takaichi worked relentlessly. She studied policy in detail, built connections, and developed a reputation for being tough, well-prepared, and deeply loyal. Unlike many politicians who followed the crowd, she spoke with conviction, even when her opinions were unpopular. Her fierce independence earned her both respect and criticism, but she never backed down. Her first major breakthrough came in 2006 when Shinzo Abe became Japan's prime minister for the first time. Recognizing her dedication and loyalty, Abe appointed Sanae to become Minister of State for Okinawa and Northern Territories Affairs, Science and Technology Policy, and Gender Equality. For the first time, she entered the Prime Minister's cabinet, a remarkable achievement for a woman who had once been dismissed as too unconventional. In her new role, Takaichi faced the challenge of balancing development, technology, and equality. She pushed for stronger innovation policies and promoted Japan's technological growth, especially in robotics and digital infrastructure. But her tenure also revealed her conservative core. While she supported economic and technological advancement, she opposed feminist policies that she believed undermined traditional family values. Her critics called her a contradiction, a woman who broke barriers yet resisted gender reforms. But to Takaichi, there was no contradiction. She believed in merit, not symbolism. Her philosophy was simple. Women don't need special treatment to rise. They need equal opportunity and the strength to endure. After Abe resigned in 2007, Takaichi lost her ministerial post, but she didn't fade away. She continued building her political base, studying defense and economic policy in detail. Her persistence paid off when Shinzo Abe returned to power in 2012, and once again she was called to the cabinet. This time, she became the Minister for Internal Affairs and Communications, one of the most influential positions in the government. This role put her in charge of Japan's administrative systems, national identity programs, and communication networks. She oversaw the development of the My Number system, Japan's digital ID policy aimed at simplifying taxation and social services. Her management style was strict and results-driven. She demanded efficiency, accountability, and speed. Her leadership caught the attention of both supporters and critics. Supporters admired her discipline, saying she was a female version of Abe, loyal, structured, and patriotic. Critics accused her of being too rigid and nationalistic. But through it all, she stayed true to her principles. By the mid-2015s, Sanae Takaichi was no longer just another LDP member. She was becoming one of the party's most powerful women. Yet, even as she climbed higher, she remained fiercely private. Her personal life stayed out of the spotlight, and she rarely displayed emotion in public. When asked how she handled criticism, she once said, "Politics is like a storm. If you can't stand the wind, you don't belong on the deck." In 2014, she became the first woman in Japan's history to serve as Minister for Internal Affairs and Communications under multiple administrations, a record that solidified her as a national figure. Her control over Japan's information and communication systems gave her real influence, not just symbolic power. Behind the scenes, she maintained a close bond with Shinzo Abe, becoming one of his most trusted allies. They shared the same vision: to rebuild Japan's confidence, protect its sovereignty, and reform its constitution to allow a stronger national defense. As the years passed, her presence in the party grew stronger. Even when she wasn't in the cabinet, she remained a key voice in LDP policy discussions. She became a symbol of discipline, nationalism, and unyielding loyalty. A woman who had earned her place not through privilege, but through perseverance. From the streets of Nara to the halls of power in Tokyo, her journey had already shattered expectations. But the story of Sanae Takaichi was far from over. She was not content being a minister. Her ambition reached higher, the very top. The next chapter of her life would test her beliefs, her resilience, and her legacy. For in the coming years, she would step into the spotlight as a potential leader of the nation, challenging not just Japan's political traditions, but the very perception of what kind of woman could lead a country once built for men.